Hello, sixth graders. We are continuing on with our Unit 4 fractions unit. And today we are learning about adding and subtracting mixed numbers. So our learning target, I can add and subtract mixed numbers. So make sure you have the title, the unit, and the learning target written down in your notebook or have the note template ready to go. Okay, our vocab here, this is just a review from the last video. So if you wrote these down in your adding and subtracting fractions notes, you would not need to write them again. If you didn't write them down last time, make sure you get those written down. Improper fraction, this is where the numerator is bigger than the denominator, so we've got some examples there. Mixed number, we have the whole number with a fraction. Like fractions means that they have the same denominator, so 5/8 and 1/8 is an example of this. Unlike fractions, the denominators are not the same, so an example 5/7 and 2/3. Least common denominator, the smallest denominator that fractions would have in common. So on these fractions, 1/2 and 3/4, our least common denominator would be 4. It's the smallest one that they share. They would also have denominators 8, 12, 16. They would have all of those in common, but the smallest one would be 4. And that part is helpful for when we're adding and subtracting to find the least common one because it makes our simplifying easier in the end. This is review as well, and you wouldn't need to write this down once again if you wrote it down in your last video notes for adding and subtracting fractions. You would not need to write it down again. Feel free to if you want to, though. When we are changing an improper fraction to a mixed number, divide the numerator by the denominator. Step 2, write down the whole number. Step 3, the remainder becomes the numerator, and the denominator stays the same. So this example, 14/5. Divide 14 by 5. So 5 goes into 14 two whole times, so that's your whole number. Your remainder, which is 4, is your numerator. Denominator stays the same. Going the other way, changing a mixed number to an improper fraction, multiply the denominator by the whole number, add the answer from step 1 to the numerator, and then that becomes your new numerator, and the denominator stays the same. So we would go 4 times 2, which is 8. Add the numerator, 8 plus 3 is 11. The denominator stays the same as 11/4. So just a quick review again, changing between the two. Okay, so now these steps we should make sure to write down. Steps to adding and subtracting mixed numbers. Similar to adding and subtracting fractions, but make sure we get them written down. Rewrite the fractions with a common denominator. Add or subtract the numerators. Keep the denominator the same. This is very important. If you end up with the fraction part being an improper fraction, so again, numerator is bigger than the denominator, rewrite it, but don't forget to add to the whole number. Add your whole numbers together and simplify. So if when you add the fractions you have a mixed number, then make sure to remember to add it to the whole numbers from the original problem. So let's see what this looks like. 7 and 4/9 plus 10 and 2/9. I'm just going to rewrite it a little bit bigger here. Now, we already have a common denominator, so I don't have to make any changes. So, we already have the common denominator. Let's add the numerators. So 4 plus 2 is 6. Keep the denominator the same. We don't have an improper fraction, so I don't have to worry about this part here. But step 4, add the whole numbers together. 10 plus 7 is 17. And step 5, simplify. I can divide both of these by 3. 17 stays. 6 divided by 3 is 2. 9 divided by 3 is 3. So 17 and 2/3 is my answer. Our next problem here, 8 and 5/6 minus 2 and 1/3, and write in simplest form again for our answer. So first step, find common denominators for the fractions. So I'm just going to rewrite the fraction part 5/6 and 1/3. Common denominator for them would be 6, so I wouldn't need to change the 5/6 at all. Multiply this side by 2, and this would become 8 and 5/6 plus, minus 2 and 2/6. So now subtract the fractions part. 5/6 minus 2/6 would be 3/6, and 8 minus 2 is 6. We can simplify by dividing the top and bottom here by 3. So this would be 6 and 1/2 in simplest form. Okay, a couple more I'm going to go through here. 7 1/3 plus 5 4/5. Again, make sure you have the examples written down, all the work that goes with it, and the final answer. So first, find a common denominator between 3 and 5 would be 15. So I'm going to multiply this side by 5, and this will become 7 and 5/15. Multiply this side by 3, and that would become 5 and 12/15. Let's add our fractions. So 5/15 plus 12/15 would be 17/15, which I notice is an improper fraction. So I'm going to hold off. We're going to turn that into a mixed number. So 15 goes into 17 one whole time with 2/15 left over. So now I have my whole number 7 from here and the 5 from here. And then this 1 and 2/15 that I just found. I'm going to add all those together. So 7 plus 5 is 12, plus 1 is 13, and 2/15. That's in simplest form, so there's my final answer. So that's a good example where we end up with an improper fraction, and we have to remember to include this whole number here with the whole numbers from our problems. Next one, 4 1/2 minus 2 2/6. So first start by finding a common denominator, which would be 6. Multiply this side by 3. So we've got, this would become 4 and 3/6 minus 2 and 2/6. Subtract our fractions. 3/6 minus 2/6 would be 1/6, and 4 minus 2 is 2. That's in simplest form, so my final answer would be 2 and 1/6. The next one, 5 1/5 minus 2 2/5. We already have a common denominator. Don't need to change it at all. So if I were to go and subtract my fractions, 1/5 minus 2/5, I can't do that. I don't have enough to take away. I can't subtract 2 from 1. So we're going to need to do some regrouping. Similar to if I had 41 minus 15, we have to go and regroup, right? That's kind of what we're going to be doing here, but with fractions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one whole away from my whole number. So I make it one less, which is 4. Now, the one that I took away from it, I'm going to turn it into a fraction. I'm just rewriting this number 5 in a different form. I'm going to turn it into 4 and 5/5. I chose fifths because then it matches my denominator that I have over here of 1/5. But that is still equal to 5. This is 4. This is 1 whole. 4 plus 1 whole would be 5. So all I did was rewrite that number 5 as a mixed number. Now what I can do is I can take that 5/5 I just made and add it onto my 1/5 here. So I have 4. 5/5 and 1/5 would be 6/5. That number, 4 and 6/5, is still equal to 5 and 1/5. And I'm going to subtract 2 and 2/5 from it. Now I have enough that I can subtract. I just did my regrouping. So now I can continue on. 6/5 minus 2/5 is 4/5. And 4 minus 2 is 2. That's already in simplest form. So if you don't have enough in the fraction form to subtract, you just have to do some regrouping. Make the whole number 1 less. And pretty much what you're doing is you're taking this denominator and you're adding it onto the top. So if I had 3 and 1/2 and I needed to regroup this or change it, I could make this 1 less and add a 2 onto here, making it 2 and 3/2, which is still equal to 3 and 1/2. All right, here's a spot where I want you to pause and try these on your own and then come back and watch as I work through them. Make sure that you have the correct answers. Again, make sure you have all the work that goes with the problems too. So 5 1/5 plus 2 3/10. Start by finding a common denominator, which would be 10. So I need to multiply this side by 2. So my new mixed number would be 5 and 2/10 plus 2 and 3/10. Add the fractions together. 2/10 plus 5/10 would be, 2/10 plus 3/10 would be 5/10. Add the whole numbers. 5 plus 2 is 7. This can be simplified by dividing the top and bottom by 5. So we end up with 7 and 1/2. Please, please, please make sure you always remember the whole number out front. And when you're adding here, don't forget them. Next one, 1 and 5/9 plus 4 and 1/6. Common denominator would be, I think they both would multiply into 36. I think that would be our lowest common denominator. So I'm going to multiply this side by 4. So we would get 1 and 36. Multiply this side then by 6. We'd end up with 4 and 6/36. Looks like we're adding them together, so add my fractions. 20/36 plus 6/36 would be 26/36. Add the whole number. 1 plus 4 is 5. I know I can simplify by dividing the top and bottom by 2. Let's start there. I'm going to kind of work up this way now. So that would be 13/18. And I think that would then be in simplest form. 13 is prime, and 18 is not divisible by 13. So that would be simplest form there. Next one, 5 and 4/5 minus 3, 1 and 3/10. Multiply this side by 2. Common denominator on here would be 10. So this becomes 5 and 8/10 minus 1 and 3/10. I don't have to change that one at all. Subtract the fractions. 8/10 minus 3/10 is 5/10. Subtract the whole numbers. 5 minus 1 is 4. This can be simplified by dividing by 5. And we end up with 4 and 1/2 for our final answer. That's in simplest form now. All right, last one here. 4 and 8/10 minus 2 and 9/10. So again, we already have a common denominator, but I can't take 9 away from 8, so I'm going to need to do some regrouping. So I'm going to make the whole number 1 less, and then because we're in tenths, that 1 I took away, I'm going to turn it into 10/10. That's still equal to 1, so we have the total of 4. Now, I can add 10/10 plus 8/10 to make 18/10. So this is the same again as if I would have just taken and added the denominator here. Make the whole number 1 less, add the denominator. Now minus 2 and 9/10. So 18/10 minus 9/10 would be 9/10. And 3 minus 2 is 1. And that's in simplest form. So 1 and 9/10. Okay, that's it for your notes. Go back, check, make sure you have everything written down that you should. Check your understanding. Is this something that you could explain to somebody else? If not, go back and rewatch parts that you are stuck on. We'll do some practice problems. Make sure you have your notes in class.